What is up, everyone? It is Tuesday. It is time for TCR Live and our game preview. And I am joined by a new guest co-host, Marcos Zabrata, who is a writer for AZ Sports Underground. He does a lot of great work over there, a lot of stuff dealing with film study. He's really kind of, got his nose in the film, or whatever the phrase would be. But I appreciate Marcos jumping in. How are you, Marcos?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, it's, we have a victory to celebrate, right? The Cardinals had a win on Thursday night. It's an exciting win. It was a win we needed. Maybe, the defense made some big plays, but also gave up some. But I'm doing okay. Cardinals Nation, I think, is happy to be off the schneid and to have D-Hop back. So I'm doing well. So we're gonna do our preview. We're gonna look at some of the different matchups, some of the stats, talk about the upcoming game against the Minnesota Vikings, and sort of preview that. Want to say to Robert Moore, another writer for AZ Sports Underground, who is the first one here. Woo woo! Thanks Robert for being here. Yeah, so thank you all for being here. So let's get into it. But first thing we're gonna do is actually throw out a little congratulations to one JJ Watt and Kylie Watt on the birth of their first child, Koa James Watt. This tweet was sent out earlier today. So, obviously exciting news for the Watt family. Marcos and I are both parents. We know what that's all about. So congratulations to the Watts. If they watch, first of all, I'd be surprised if they're watching, but nonetheless, out into the universe, I'm sending congratulations. We are both sending congratulations to the Watts. We got Brian here. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here, making my night. You are a rock star. Thank you, Brian. Brian is such a kind dude who always appreciate the kind comments. Yeah, Watt's kid's going to be so athletic, right? His parents are both world-class athletes, right? JJ Watt, we all know about him. Kylie, just an amazing soccer player. So yeah, that kid is going to be an athlete. So let's dive right into it, previewing this game. So I'm going to talk about just go over some of the rankings and just kind of see how do the Cardinals and Vikings kind of match up. And then we'll give Marcos a chance to jump in and talk about this matchup. So when we look at the DVOA, right, I talk about this every week. This is a great measure of just kind of general team efficiency. Cardinals have struggled, in terms of efficiency. Maybe some of this is influenced by, some of those games that were really bad on offense and defense. I think or the first halves of most games that were bad. Yeah. But the Cardinals ranked 29th in overall DVOA and weighted compared to the Vikings for 18th in each of those. Offensively, we rank 26th. The Vikings are 14th. We rank 21st in defensive DVOA. The Vikings rank 24th, and then special teams were 27th, and they're 22nd. So, they are, at least in terms of offense and special teams, they've been better, more efficient. We've been better on defense. And then we'll look at just the yards rankings and such. The offensive rankings in terms of yards and points per game, we rank 16th in yards per game, and also 16th in points per game. Now we put up more yards per game than the Vikings, who are ranked 18th, but they are better in terms of points per game at with 23.2, ranking 14th. So our offense is, we put up more yards, they put up more points, but they're pretty comparable, actually. It's not a huge gap between these two teams. And then when we look at the defensive rankings, yards per game, the Cardinals actually fare better in yards per game, only allowing 359.7, which is 22nd, compared to the Vikings, 384.5, 27th. But we've given up more points at 27th, and they're 13th. And certainly the games against the Chiefs and the game we just won, which had a lot of points scored, on both sides of the ball. So when you look at these rankings, Marcos, what stands out to you, and how do you size up this matchup?
It just seems like we're kind of like even when it comes to our team in terms of both offense and defense. Obviously, we have some discrepancies on our own end compared to how the Vikings operate on offense. It seems like they're a little bit more, I don't know how to say, like, more fluent. I guess they convert more of their they're just more like they just continuously keep moving the ball and stuff. But we've had our struggles. Now we have DeAndre Hopkins back, and I was on the whole camp of that DeAndre Hopkins shouldn't be that big of an impact. Last year, I just didn't really buy into it until I saw the first 6 games, and I was like, oh, well, actually, he is a bigger impact. So hopefully that helps us move the ball continuously. And on defense, it just looks like we're pretty much even matched when it comes to that, yardage and points wise.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing there, I think, is the efficiency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we put up, if you look offensively, right, we put up more yards, right, than they do, but they seem to be a little more efficient about getting them when it matters and keeping the drives going. And, so we put up more yards, but they put up more points when you look at the offensive rankings. And I think the DVOA is a metric that reflects that, right? Because it takes into account the situation. So, yards and garbage time aren't going to improve your DVO nearly as much as putting up yards when it's part of a scoring drive. And I think what you described there is reflected here, right? They have a better DVOA on offense. They've got more points. So we put up the yards, but they just seal the deal, right? A little better than we do. It seems to be what's going on here. Real quick, let me say hey to some of the folks who dropped in. We've got Ben Cork. Too bad we're not meeting Cousins in prime time, right? Because he seems a struggler. That would be nice. We got Chris R. Yo-Yo, I'm late, but I'm here. Thank you for being here. We got Saltiest Gaming. What's up? We appreciate you hanging out. So, so I think what you said, the Cardinals can put up yards, but just haven't been as efficient. It's those things we've been talking about, the penalties, right, that create third and long situations, the fourth downs that they've just kind of not converted at points, things like that. And the Vikings have been better in that regard so far. So,
well, that's why I'm hoping. That's why I'm hoping DeAndre Hopkins can help alleviate that, because that used to be not trying to say that he was a crutch, but he kind of was a crutch when it came to like trying to complete like those third and longs and stuff. So that's why I'm hoping it just continues, like, gives our offense a better flow.
Yeah, this offense looked different, right? With Hopkins. I mean, it was stalling out for up at first 6 games of the year. They put up some points in the second half at times. But they didn't put in a touchdown in the first quarter, but they put up 28 points. It wasn't perfect, but it looked like they could keep the offense going more, right? He was there to convert those third downs. It felt different, and there were some, you're right, because we were questioning, is Hopkins going to fix what was going on with this offense? And a lot of us were starting to feel like this offense has more problems than Hopkins can fix by himself. And I think there are still things they need to work on. But man, that was a big step. That was the most points we put up all season and most offensive points we put up all season, even when you set aside the defensive points. Saltiest Gaming pointing out Cardinals haven't beaten the Vikings at home since the 70s. Now, we haven't played them a ton because they're not in division, but that's a fair point, right? So now I think those long histories, I think those are interesting, but I don't think they have a lot of predictive value on what's going to happen. But this is definitely a tough matchup, right? And these matchups all start with the quarterback, right? So let's look at the quarterbacks and get your thoughts on Marcus, how they compare. So, Kyler's having a down season compared to what he's done in his first 3 years in the league. He's got 1,667 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 83.7. His PFF offensive grade is 69.9, and his passing grade is 64.4, both below what he normally puts up. He actually grades pretty well in these typically. He's got 45 rushing attempts for 260 yards, 5.8 touchdowns, or 5.8 yard average and 2 touchdowns. And then when you look at Kirk Cousins, he has fewer yards, but more touchdowns and interceptions, like 15.02, 9, and 5. His quarterback rating and his PFF grades are better, and he doesn't rush nearly as much. So, when you look at the matchup between the quarterbacks, how do you size up the quarterbacks on these two teams?
Well, it shows the weapons that Kirk Cousins has on his side. I mean, having Justin Jefferson is like obviously him and Adam Thielen. That helps immensely when we've missed at least one actual true wide receiver one. We had Hollywood Brown. Now he's down, unfortunately. DeAndre Hopkins just came back. So if we had those two weapons, maybe those numbers, like I'm not talking about like yardage wise, might not be, it might be a little bit higher, but as the grades should have been higher, at least for Kyler Murray, and also his efficiency should have been higher had we had both those two wide receivers back. But unfortunately, we're only going to have one at a time, and who knows what's going to happen with Marquise Brown. But I like I mentioned earlier before, having Hopkins will allow Kyler Murray to be able to be able to decipher what he sees on the field. He's doing a lot of reads before, and he's missing some targets, unfortunately. But that's why Hopkins being back is so important. So as far as I see, hopefully it's not a matchup like last year, where Kirk Cousins kind of threw the ball all over the place and Dalvin Cook ran all over us. Hopefully it's a situation where Kyler Murray can now get that one big game, that 350 plus in the air and maybe 50 rushing yards. I would definitely give the edge to Kyler Murray on this one, and I really hope that going in, how they game plan. Kyler, you got your boy. You got your boy. It seemed like they didn't even miss a step.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem like they missed a step at all.
Yeah, it felt like they had been playing all preseason throughout the season. It didn't feel like he'd missed a step. Yeah, Cousins has some great weapons. Cardinals have struggled. Hollywood Brown, like you said, looked really good. Then he got injured, and we were struggling to get consistent production behind him. Hopkins is back. Hopefully, hopefully Robbie Anderson can have a big game, right? Bobby Moore saying, I predict Robbie Anderson to receive a 30-plus yard catch in this game. Be that deep threat. So here's hoping, right? So, we'll see what happens. But, and Brian saying, I have a bad feeling Cook's going to go off. We'll talk about Cook, right?
Yeah.
But, hopefully having Hopkins, as Bobby's saying, he will open up the receivers, right? And it was nice to see. I know a lot of people have shared this graphic that they moved Hopkins around more. He wasn't just on the left side. His route, his targets and his routes run. But yeah, Cousins is interesting. I think he's a little bit like a Derek Carr. He's good, but he's not going to carry a franchise by himself. But if you give him good weapons, you can win games with him. And he has good weapons there. As talking about Thielen and Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. His numbers aren't that much better. His PFF grades are better, so I guess he's more efficient. He's got a few more touchdowns, more.
That's because of his receivers, of course. That's what's carrying him right now.
Yeah, that's definitely, that helps having guys that are open, right? So, but his numbers aren't off the chart, right? They're fine. So I think on script, I think on what's the word?
Schedule.
On schedule. Thank you. On schedule. When he's on schedule, like Kyler's struggled with on schedule play. It's the off schedule plays where he can kind of make plays. So on schedule, Cousins seems to be playing a little better this year. So it's an interesting matchup, right, between the on schedule and off schedule. Let me say hey to a few more folks that have dropped in here. We got Blake. Thank you for being here. Cardinals have two things as heart this season. They have heart and they have D-Hop. We're working with Cliff and Kyler. We will see a postseason this year. Have faith. Rise up, Red Sea. I love the optimism. They're trending in the right direction. We'll see what happens. Lord Dane, thank you for being here. I'm hoping that we can somehow slow down Justin Jefferson and keep Adam Thielen from making an impact. Absolutely. We will talk about, but we also have to find a way to stop Cook. Yeah. And Patrick Peterson, he's picked off K1 number one on his he wants to pick up Kyle. That's number one on his bucket list. I hate to say it, Peterson's having a nice season. He's kind of playing better than he has recently. So
yeah, the grades are pretty good.
Yeah. And then I want to say hey to Tanner Seymour. Thanks for being. How's it going, guys? Go Cards. It's going well. Appreciate you hanging out with us. So so with the quarterback matchup, I think Kyler has better tools, is better upside, but he hasn't played well this year. So Cousins is having a better year. But if Kyler has the kind of game he's capable of, he'll play better. If he struggles again, Cousins is going to stay on schedule and is going to have a better game. So we'll see what happens, right? So real quick, how has McBride? I don't have his grades in front of me, but they haven't been great. They're kind of low. I want to say they're in the 50s. I looked at last time I looked at it. McBride has struggled a little bit, but he's a rookie, so that's
we'll give him a pass.
Yeah,
we'll give him a pass.
So let's talk about some of the other matchups on this team. So, this is now with the offensive line, we don't know if Rodney Hudson will be playing at center. If he doesn't, Billy Price will likely start again. He played really well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Cody Ford is likely to start unless there's an injury setback. I would imagine he's starting, and the rest of the offensive line is the same as it's been all year. And then we have some of the edge rushers and defensive interior linemen for the Vikings, and they've got a nice set of nice set of front defensive linemen and edge rushers. Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, some good interior defensive linemen in Harrison Phillips and Thomason. When you look at this matchup here, is there anything that stands out to you, or anything that's noteworthy in terms of the trenches in right here?
Well, I'm mostly just worried about Danielle Hunter. He had himself a game last year. I believe he had like 3 sacks, and he had a couple of pressures. One of those pressures, though, led to that 77-yard touchdown by Kyler Murray to Rondell Moore. But he was like right there, step to step, where he had to flush him out the pocket. It ended up like working towards our favor, but that's what I always think about. I was like, Danielle Hunter going into this, and now Zadarius Smith. I heard he's like you mentioned he's questionable, and let's hope that let's just pray that he's not going to play. But those edge rushers kind of scare me. But then on the other side, DJ Humphries has been having a good year, and I mean, even though I can't believe I forgot the right tackle.
The right tackle, Kelvin Beachum,
He's just been kind of shaky. He's been up and down this whole year, so he's the one that I'm kind of worried about. So maybe we should start lining up. Well, maybe the game plan should be that we line up where we put Zach Ertz. We should put him on the side to have him chip Zadarius Smith or Danielle Hunter. I prefer Danielle Hunter, but those two guys they better go into a game plan where they're gonna chip at least one of those two individuals.
Yeah, Beacham's interesting because if you look at his grades, he actually is graded pretty well. 73.5 pass blocking, 64.6 run blocking, but he's had a few bad plays. I know he gave up the 1 sack to Hassan Reddick. From what I know about how PFF grades work, that they grade every single play. And I know a lot of people have been talking about how Beacham's been struggling. I think my best guess is what's happening is he has a handful of bad plays, but on all the other plays, he plays really well, and those bad plays stand out. That's my best guess as to why he grades well, yet to the eye test, people are frustrated with his play. But if you look at, the grades across the board, offensive linemen, they've been better in pass blocking than they have been in run blocking. So they've done a decent job protecting Kyler this year. And this last game, and Billy Price, 83.4 pass blocking grade. He's only, just for one game. Cody Ford coming right off the IR, having to jump in, and because Max Garcia was injured, 66 pass blocking grade is not bad. So, they've got some good pass rushers, and that's definitely a concern. But our offensive line has held up pretty well on that, especially our outside guys have graded, Humphreys, and even Beacham's graded reasonably well. So, but listen, Hunter and Smith, that's quite a duo, and they'll probably have to chip them some with the tight end. So I think you're right. Anything else about this matchup before you look at the other side?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in our offensive line. This entire, as a matter of fact, I think this year they've actually overachieved than what we would expect. So, I mean, we kind of had our little bit of a scare when it came to Rodney Hudson, and it just, I have no idea what's going on with him, whether he even has the heart to even play anymore. But I mean, last year it wasn't like he graded well, but he looked better on film. This year he just looks like he's checked out. So I like that Billy Price stepped in, and I like that Cody Ford stepped in place of, anytime we could keep Max Garcia out of our lineup, that's a good thing. So I'm glad that Cody Ford, not only that we made that trade, but he stepped in. So I feel very confident about our offensive line. Like I said, as long as we can keep those edge rushers at bay, maybe with some chip help. Cliff Kingsbury does implement that in there, and I've seen Rondell Moore do that more than a few times. So hopefully he does that, because he can knock people on the ground when he does, being that he's 5'8". And that's going to be the name of the game. It's just neutralizing those edge rushers.
Yeah, and Chris is saying, I feel like our offensive line is grading better than the eye test credits. I'm personally only confident in Hump. I know I feel really good about Will Hernandez. I think he's played really
Yeah,
well. I think I don't know, like I think our offensive line has actually done a pretty good job, especially against the pass rush. They gave up I think 2 sacks this last game, and one of them was not on the offensive line. It was a coverage sack where Kyler, was sitting in the pocket he had a long time in the pocket,
yeah,
didn't find the open man, and they did about as much as you could hope for. But I was very I'm very much intrigued by Billy Price. Former first round pick, struggled. Sometimes guys take a little while to figure it out. I mean, listen, Mason Cole, a guy we drafted previously in the second round, is he's grading in the top 10 of centers. I think he's playing for Pittsburgh right now. He's a top 10 center, at least by grade right now. I'm not now. Is he going to keep doing that? I don't know. But sometimes those players take a little while to develop. And, Price is one of those guys that has that first round pedigree. If he keeps playing well, and he played reasonably well last year for the Giants, I don't know. I mean, someone posted this in Discord, and I want to give them credit for it. I apologize. I think I forget who it was, but I apologize for that. But someone said, hear me out, but what if we cut Rodney Hudson for the cap savings and start Billy Price? Now, I'm not sure if I want to go that far, but I think we need to hold on to Billy Price and see what he does for us this year, because it's not out of the realm of possibility he could be a starting center if he figures it out. If he has figured it out, so we'll see.
yeah. Sean
But
Kugler has done a really good job, especially like going into this year. I was really high on Will Hernandez for that reason, but we got to give it to Sean Kugler. He's done. He's brought out the best out of our offensive linemen.
Yeah, he's done a heck of a job. It's exciting to see him with Will Hernandez. Speaking of offensive linemen, we have Aaron Van Buren in the house, our resident offensive lineman, now coach. Thanks for hanging out with us, AVB. It's good to see you, buddy. I hope you are doing well, sir. Good to see you. So yeah. So let's switch it to the other side of this, and I'll use this as a chance to this comment. Before we get into this, we need to take a shot at Daron Payne. There's been, word on Twitter that, he's kind of on the trading block. Please, Kyle, get it done. So, with Rashard Lawrence is banged up, right? So, right, we've got Allen and Watt, who are both playing well. Lecky Fotu is the next man up. He's not playing great, but he's playing better than he did last year, but that's low bar. Yeah. What do you think about, how would you feel about trading, and the tweets that have been going around saying they say it would take a day 2 pick. So maybe a second or third round. Oh, Brian is the one who said that we should cut him. Thank you. I thought, okay. Yes. Thank you for that. Yes. He was the one who said we should cut Hudson and keep Price, which we'll see. Maybe, who knows, right? So what do you think about Daron Payne at trading, let's say, a second or maybe a third and maybe you might have to, with a third, you might have to throw in a day 3 pick. What do you think? And then, he's a guy you're going to have to, I don't know what his contract status is, but you're probably going to have to pay him. What do you think about that?
I really like that. I heard the rumors about it, and of course, being a Cardinals fan, like I don't want to be pessimistic about it, but every time I hear one, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But we want it to happen, and I'm for like trading for Daron Payne. He will fill that need at DT, maybe as a 3 tech, as a 4. No, I don't know about a 4 tech, but somebody that can at least line up in the inner shoulders of the center and the guard. So he's wasn't he like a former first round pick?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you have somebody that you can like pull away from the Washington Commanders, for some reason they have a nose for like defensive tackle, like building up the lines on the defense. So anytime we can pluck somebody away, I would be all for it. Maybe send them if we send them a second rounder, depending on how we do, it could be a high second round, it could be a low second round, whatever. I'm cool with parting ways with the second rounder.
Yeah, Daron Payne, let's see. It looks like he is playing I think he's on his 5th year, so I guess he's playing on the 5th year option. I guess is what I'm looking at here.
That's gonna
So
be a high price.
yeah, I mean his cap hit this year is $8.5 million. So I'm not sure how that would work in terms of space, but he was a number 13 overall pick out of Alabama. With I think his profile, he's one of those interior defensive linemen, that would fit in nicely at kind of that nose and a little bit of that D end. So it depends, I don't want to say I do a second and third all day, every day. When things I've like when we've talked about trades at this point, where the roster's at, interior defensive linemen and maybe offensive line, but I feel better about the offensive line with how Ford and Price played. But interior defensive line is the only place I'd really maybe want to consider making a trade, because I feel like our cornerbacks are holding up nicely. We'll talk about that later. We're getting guys like Antonio Hamilton back and such, so I feel better about that. We added a receiver. If you add any more receivers, there's a point where you have to start cutting receivers when, with guys coming back. Edge rushers, I know a lot of people want to trade for edge rushers. I want to let Cameron Thomas play. I want to let the young guys play. I don't really want to trade for a guy that we've already got a lot of guys we're going to have to pay soon.
Yeah.
Because you got Byron Murphy Jr., you've got, Zach Allen. Will Hernandez will have to pay to keep, and I think we should keep him. If Billy Price works out, we'll have to pay him. He may not be terribly expensive, but then when you start trading for guys that are last year that you got to pay them, there starts to not be room to do that. So I'm interior defensive line is the one place I'm maybe open to that, because that's the biggest need, right? But I wouldn't go, for me, I wouldn't go edge. Brian's clarifying. I said it was worth having a conversation, not that it was slam dunk, that we should cut Hudson. That's fair. He says Payne and, Bradley Chubb, the outside linebacker from the Broncos, are both also we're talking about for the right price, like your co-host said, right? Real quick, I want to say to Mark Jackson, thanks for being here. Sorry, watching hockey game. Don't blame me. You love hockey. Have a good stream. Appreciate that. And then Chris is saying Hudson was questionable coming in the season with his injury and the way he's played. He is out there. I'm not against trading him for something. If you can trade him, or maybe,
He'll probably retire.
Yeah, I just don't know that you're going to be able to trade him for much, but, you've got Zach Allen, Murphy that are must, right? And how about Matt Ioannidis from I believe he's with the Panthers now, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken, he's a nice player. I mean, he's a veteran, so if he would cost less, if you could get him without giving up a ton, and he might be a nice, less expensive option than Payne. So let's look at this matchup, though. We've kind of talked about some of these kind of different trade scenarios. When you look at, the offensive line of the Vikings and then our defensive interior and our edge rushers, what stands out to you?
I think Bradbury has been pretty disappointing so far. And that guard, I think it's the right guard. Not sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking
He's
at
a rookie.
Yeah. My screen is like that big, so I'm over here like squinting. I just want to let everybody in chat know, like, everybody's like, what the heck's going on with him? But yeah, so far I see orange and I see red on pass protection. So yeah, that interior doesn't look very well. Plus, I mean, JJ Watt and Zach Allen have been monsters up the middle, so I think that's where they're gonna want to patch up like some holes in their play calling and stuff. It's gonna probably be in the interior.
Yeah, Garrett Bradbury, the center, he's a former first-round pick. He's he hasn't been great. His grades have been like in his rookie year graded 57.8. Next year he was 61.4, then 60.2. Yeah. This year he's having his best season at 65. He's okay. Ed Ingram, the right guard, is a rookie second-round pick out of LSU. He's struggling. In his run blocking is great, 73.2, but his pass blocking, 39.1, is really rough. And then, on the left side, you have Ezra Cleveland, a former second-round pick in his third year, grading reasonably well, but he's better against the run. So I think you're seeing what I'm seeing, which is that the interior offensive line for the Vikings has struggled against the pass blocking for the pass blocking, right?
Yeah.
Christian Darris on the left has been awesome pass blocking, 18.6. O'Neal on the right side has been okay. You know, his pass blocking 67.6. For Brian O'Neal, that's fine. His run blocking is better, but it does seem like that interior is the spot to attack, and that is where some of our best pass rushers have been
That's where
most.
our best pressure. Yeah.
So it feels like Watt and Allen are going to be the keys here, right? Trying
Yeah.
to take advantage of Ed Ingram, the rookie, right, on the right guard position. Real quick, Hammer, we should trade for Shai Tuttle from New Orleans, another interior defensive lineman. Hey, potentially, yeah. So yeah, I think the inside that's the interesting thing, right? That interior pressure is going to be where we're going to have the best chance. I think Marcus Golden's going to have his hands full against Christian Darrisaw. We'll see what Cameron Thomas does against O'Neal on the right side, or when. Well, they'll move them around, so whoever he's matched up against. But yeah. Anything else that stands out to you when you look at this?
Well, what really sticks out to me is like, what are they going to do with Watt and Zach Allen on this? Usually, they've been doing a lot of 4-man fronts as of late, which I'm a big fan of because of those two guys and those two individuals. But of course, we have to keep Watt on a snap count. But I really, really hope, like, I'm trying to gauge to see how he's going to utilize them. If he's going to have both of them on the field at the same time, I would be for that. I would try to limit Fotu as much as possible, because that interior does look kind of very, like, it looks very exposed in a way, I guess you could say. And Zach Allen with his ascension, one of my favorite things that Vance Joseph has done is lined him up at zero tech, standing up. And that's where he's just gone so quick, and he's beaten the center time and time again. So I hope he can. I really hope he does. Like, give him more snaps at something like that to take advantage of that interior.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to do something to take advantage of that interior line. That's where the strength is for them. I agree for sure. So it's interesting though. Like, we got to get those edge rushers going. But when I look at this, what I also see is that they have been very good at run blocking. That's their strength.
Yeah.
Our run defense, Zach Allen has been really good, but that's a little bit more of our weakness on our front. We, again, this is something we haven't been great with since last year. We've been a little better this year in run defense, but I think some of that's game script. But yeah, that's going to be an issue, and that's going to be a concern because they have a certain guy named Dalvin Cook. And last year, I'm sure you remember, coming out of week 1, we were all really excited about the way the Cardinals shut down Derrick Henry, right? I mean, they just shut him down in week 1. Then we faced Dalvin Cook, a different kind of running back, a little shiftier, a little more of a slasher, a little more, less of a power back, but still has some power. And he gashed us, right? He just ran all over us. And we come out of that game lucky to have a win on a field goal that they missed. Dalvin Cook's having a decent year. 450 yards rushing, 4 rushing touchdowns, 12 receptions for 80 yards. His PFF grades, running is pretty good. Receiving is lower, but he's more of a runner than a receiver. So you look at a lot of film and you see what the Cardinals have been doing on defense. You've been looking at Zaven Collins a lot, I know, and Isaiah Simmons. What do the Cardinals need to do to stop Dalvin Cook?
Unfortunately, it seems like the only option they can have is to just stack the box, and I'm not in favor for doing that at any. Like in today's defenses, I'd rather keep more in coverage because that's where we're moving towards. And I don't know if they can even do that. I'm not even sure if that's even something that like these players were like taught to do, more so than like just from what I've seen and from what I've read about like our run defense. It's more about just headhunting and shooting gaps than it is about like like, you know how a normal defense operates with the gap scheme. So everybody has an assignment. Everybody has an assigned gap. And from what I've seen, we don't really run too much of that unless it's on our base fronts. So going into the, I've been dreading like this part, because like so far I gotta give them credit. They have done pretty decent when it comes to like other running backs where I'm fearful. Like Christian McCaffrey, I thought he was gonna gash us just like he did last year. So with Dalvin Cook, I hope that's the game plan. Just take him away, because you take him away, and that's a big part of the Minnesota Vikings offense, where they keep everything on script and on schedule. I think last year he had 131 yards on us. Then if anybody knows about that game more than anybody, I remember watching film over and over and over again, and I'm like, wow, this guy they're just going up the middle. They're just beating they're pushing our linemen out, like they're beating them off the ball. And then our linebackers, they're just running all over them. It didn't matter what we did. Jordan Hicks played the majority of the snaps in that position. Funny enough, we're going to face him this week. And Zaven Collins, he played some portion of the snaps, but it didn't matter. And Isaiah Simmons, he played a lot of on the edge. So he even when he was in the boxes, it just didn't look well. So I think they're just going to have to stack the box on this and just take that weapon away. Just commit to taking that weapon away and trust the coverage on the outside. They have been doing pretty well.
Yeah. When I look at Zaven Collins and comparing to, Jordan Hicks, who was the Mike last year, Jordan Hicks is a veteran, knows the NFL. He has that experience. He has those mental reps, but unfortunately, he's kind of lost a step. And when I look at Zaven Collins, he's a guy who's still getting those mental reps, but I think he's surprised a lot of people in a good way this year. Now that he's out there playing during the preseason, everyone was worried about Zaven Collins and people calling him a bust. I'm like, slow your roll. Let's see what happens. And, people concerned because, there was reports of maybe he wasn't going to have the green dot that's a bad sign. And now he's got the green dot and he's playing well. Yeah. He's actually a guy we're not worried about on this defense. Right. And when I watch him, I see as someone who's plays more instinctively, who's more aggressive and shooting gaps against the run, maybe makes a few mistakes by being too aggressive, but that aggressiveness is also helping him a lot. Are you seeing what I'm seeing on tape? Or are you seeing something a little different? When you look at Zaven and I guess tying that to Dalvin Cook, how's he going to, what's he going to do against Cook? Is he going to be successful, do you think? What are your thoughts on Collins in this matchup?
Well, that's all going to depend on the game plan going in. And as far as all linebackers are concerned, and of course, I think they're just going to keep on pace with what they have with like Isaiah Simmons playing a lot of slot and a lot in the box as like a dime backer slot mixture. With Zaven, it's not like I would want for him, and I would imagine Ben Neiman, and shout out to Ben Neiman. Last week I give him a lot of crap. Last Thursday he played a really good game. So for both of those linebackers, it's going to be up to them to be able to step up. But unfortunately, as what I've seen before and this year, it doesn't look pretty. But what I'm hoping is that they go to a traditional gap scheme. That way it takes the load off of these linebackers having to be super instinctual. And it's just like, hey, this is your gap. You step up into that gap. That gap is cloudy. You scrape onto the next gap and just simplify it for them, because these two linebackers are very, all three linebackers are very capable of being able to do that. And Isaiah Simmons, even though people were giving him, a lot of crap for not being able to defend the run and stuff, he can surprise people when it comes to especially with TFLs, he can shoot gaps. And then I believe he had two last year that were pretty impressive. And both of those, one of them was because JJ Watt redirected the running back. So he can do something about similar to that. At least what we can say about Collins is he's not going to get run over. He comes down. And that's what I like seeing from him. So hopefully, like, I mean, he just keeps his head on a swivel, steps into those gaps, or just takes down Dalvin Cook enough times for them to just not want to run so much on us. At least, hopefully, not in a game script situation, just on a, hey, you guys are going to have to beat us some other way.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the way to stop him is to load the box, but you don't want to do that because you want to keep guys in coverage. And one of the reasons you want to keep guys in coverage is because of this guy, Justin Jefferson, and obviously Adam Thielen, who that's a great pair of receivers. We're gonna kind of focus in on Jefferson, but obviously we can talk about all their receiving weapons. But Justin Jefferson is the dude, right? He is a stud. He is emerging. He has become a star. Top 5 receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, in terms of what he's done coming out of LSU. He's got 46 receptions, 654 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. His offensive grade 78.8, receiving grade 79.3. The dude is legit. And that is, one of those that we're going to have to deal with Cook, but we're also going to have to deal with Jefferson. What are your thoughts on Jefferson and how the Cardinals are going to match up against him?
Oh, Jefferson is that guy. Like ever since his rookie year, I was talking to myself, telling myself maybe we should take a chance on this guy that's going to go late in this round, might maybe slip in the second. Well, look how he's become so far. And yeah, his route running is like it's on another level. I think there's only like 3 or 4 other wide receivers, and we can pretty much know who those wide receivers are that like do what he does. He's just doing it at a young age. So as far as like when it comes to how we defend him, the good thing is that this year we've been doing a pretty good job against other teams, WR1s, but WR2s have been a problem. And obviously Adam Thielen is at WR2. So that person's going to get his hands full, and that might be Marco Wilson right there. And Marco Wilson has been up and down. As far as Byron Murphy is concerned, well, what they tend to do in this defense is they play their obviously, they play their corners off ball a lot. So they try to just take away everything over and then just give him everything underneath. So what I'm guessing is it's going to be one of those situations where Byron Murphy might be playing off ball. That way, he doesn't give up anything over. He only gives everything under to Justin Jefferson. And I'm pretty sure he's going to have some sort of bracket help, whether it's like a linebacker buzzing out or somebody over the top. So I guess what my prediction would be is that Justin Jefferson doesn't go off on us. I don't believe he went off on us last year either. But Adam Thielen, he's more of that outside, inside person, that kind of like he shifts from being a boundary to a slot. So I think I would be more worried about Adam Thielen.
Yeah, you're right. And, I tweeted this out earlier today. Top 5 wide receiver games against the Cardinals this year. The best game was Chris Olave, just this last week, 7 for 106. Devontae Smith had a nice game, 10 for 87, but no touchdowns. Like, only one receiver, not now. Tight ends have had better games, but of wide receivers, only one has had over 100 yards. And then you look at what the Cardinals have done against some of the best receivers in the NFL, right? Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. None of them had over the most was 44 yards, right? For Kupp, 1 touchdown. So, they've done a good job bracketing those number 1 receivers, like you talked about. Chris Olave is the only number 1 receiver to have a really good game, I think, against the Cardinals. Depending on how you want to, I don't think maybe Smith-Schuster. I don't know who's the number 1 aside. Kelsey's the number 1, except he's a tight end.
Yeah.
Right. But so they've done a good job. Byron Murphy Jr. is a big part of that. I think the defensive scheme's part of it. Having arguably the best safety tandem in the NFL is part of that. Marco Wilson has struggled, but they've done a good job kind of, covering that, right? With the scheme to where his mistakes, when he gets beat, it doesn't usually end up being a 70-yard getting beat, except, maybe
except for last
game. The Kevin White game reception. But so they've done well, right, against those number 1 receivers. but as you mentioned, it's not just Justin Jefferson, it's Adam Thielen. But against Philadelphia, they had and they Devontae Smith had a nice game, but no touchdowns. 87 yards on 10 receptions isn't, that's not super efficient.
Yeah. He had a lot of reception yards too, so right. Some of those are yak.
You'll give those up all day if you have to, right? And then AJ Brown. So when they've gone against teams that had a pair of good receivers in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they've done a good job against those. It's the tight ends and the running backs. That's where they've gotten beat, right? So, that's the concern, right? So now is it Irv Smith, their tight end, I think, junior, I believe. They don't have an elite tight end in Minnesota, as far as I know. But out of the backfield, maybe we'll see some plays. But so that's going to be an interesting matchup. But Brian loves Jay Jetta. You got him in your dynasty. I have him in a dynasty. All right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I did not draft him his rookie year in my keeper league, but I traded for him just before he started going off. And the person who traded him to me is the commissioner of the league, and he kicks himself for that. So I have him as a keeper, right? Bobby Moore. Oh, he's gonna drop a little bit of a truth bomb on us. I don't know. I hate to be realist. Last time we beat the Vikings in Minnesota was 1974 when the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, that someone mentioned that earlier. That's a long streak, but I don't ever put any weight into those kinds of historical streaks because it's different players, it's different coaches, it's different everything. We haven't played them a lot, and we haven't been this organization hasn't been good over those years. So that's the case, but I bet there haven't been very many games in that matchup. And that just doesn't, that in terms of predicting what happens this game, that doesn't have really any predictive value. What does, though, is that the Vikings are 5-1 or 6. They're 5-1, and we're 3-4, and they're favored, right? But they haven't had the toughest schedule either, right? They've beaten teams that are just, they're kind of meh.
They got obliterated by the Eagles, who we went head to head with.
Yeah. So I'm bringing. That's a good point. I'm bringing up their schedule. They beat the Packers 23-7. Okay, Packers have not been good this year, but that was a nice one for them. Yeah, they lost 24-7 to the Eagles, who we were right there with.
Yeah.
They beat the Lions 28-24. The Lions have one win, so that Lions are a bad team for all the grit they might have. They won against the Saints 28-25, who we just beat.
Yeah.
They beat the Bears 29-22. The Bears just had a nice game last night, but the Bears haven't been a great team. And they beat the Dolphins 24-16. I believe the Dolphins were playing a backup quarterback at that point, though, or was Tua back? Let's see.
I don't think Tua was back.
Yeah, Bridgewater. Bridgewater was the starter. He threw for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So they beat the Dolphins minus Tua. So, the Vikings might be a little bit of a paper tiger, a little bit in terms of, who they've beaten. So who knows, right? They still have a better record though. So I'm not saying, listen, they right now they deserve to be favored. So I'm not saying that, but let's see. Landon Mass, thanks for being here. Their offense has weapons and they're 5-1, but have not really impressed. Fits and starts. They're not utilizing Cook like years past. We got a chance yet. Any given Sunday, absolutely. I like our chances against them. It's not, they're favored. They should be, but it's not like we're coming in there with no chance. I don't know. I think that the question is this team the Cardinals turning the corner, or are they going to fall back to what they've been? If they're turning the corner, I like our chances against most teams. How do you see that overall when you look at this matchup? What do you think? Is there anything else that stands out? Anything that's worth talking about in terms of player matchups, or other things you think are going to happen this game? How do you think this game's going to shape up? Anything else about this matchup you want to discuss, Marcos?
Well, the way it looks like so far is it's probably going to be a high-scoring game, maybe. I've been shocked before. been off on my predictions on what's going to happen, especially on my my little, like scouting reports that I do. And so, I mean, for all that I know, I feel like it's going to be a high scoring game. I feel like both of our defenses give up a lot of yards. Well, I mean, I don't know about our red zone percentage. It says we're pretty bad, but it doesn't show that when you look at the box score and the points. So, that's just that's how I feel. I feel like we're going to see a lot of offense, but as far as I know, it could be just a low scoring game, defensive, like matchup and stuff. And, Kyler Murray and Kirk Cousins, they're not moving the ball effectively or anything. It could be a shocker like that, like it was like against Seattle. Everybody thought Seattle was going to be a high scoring game, and then it ended up just being 19-9. So, but I feel good about this matchup. I really do. I still can't believe we lost to Sam Bradford in that stadium. What was that, like in 2017, I think, or in 2018? Or
like that. Yeah.
I just can't believe that.
Yeah. Well, and listen, it's going to be hard to know what happens. You're right. Because is it going to be a high scoring game? Real quick, Brian's I think has to get out of here. Thanks. Yeah. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the Discord for sure. It could be a high scoring game because both of our defenses struggle. We just had a high scoring game, yet at the same time, the Cardinals defense shows up sometimes. I mean, the Cardinals held the Seahawks to 19 points. The Seahawks, that's the second lowest amount of points the Seahawks have put up all season. The Seahawks offense has been really good this year, as much as unexpected as it is, right? You look at the Seahawks. Week 1, they put up 17 points. That was the fewest, against the Broncos. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is a third.
49ers, right?
Yeah, then the 49ers, they're going to put up 7, okay? So that's the first and second, okay? But then they put up 23 against the Falcons, 48 against the Lions,
Jeez.
32 against the Saints. We held them to 19, and then they just put up 37 against the Chargers. So this is a team that, if you look at the last 4 games, it's 48, 32. We gave up 19 to them, and then 37, right? So the Cardinals defense, it's a high variance defense. It will show up sometimes, right? It helped the Eagles 20 points or 20, 23, whatever it was. But then the Saints with Andy Dalton at quarterback will put up 34, right? So
yeah,
it could go either way, right? It's really tricky. Brian's got a good point. They should have a Gladdy Memorial. He played for, played for the Vikings, right? And the Cardinals time. So, rest in peace. Obviously it's tragic, that he lost his life. So I wonder if they'll do something, for him. That'd be interesting, right? And then, Brian makes up another point though about the Cardinals. Please, people, please remember San Francisco started 3-5 and turned it around. That can happen. There's a lot of parity right now, so we'll see. We're going to get out of here in just a few minutes. There's a Suns game coming up. We don't want to keep people past that. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Kind of clear out the notebook. Anything else about this game that you wanted to discuss before we get out of here?
Well, just like I mentioned earlier, it feels like it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm very, very interested. I checked out a little bit of film on Jordan Hicks and Patrick Peterson. I'm really interested in how they're going to perform this weekend, being that they were ex-Cardinals, and we diss Patrick Peterson. That's what he says. I'm not sure if that's what I would say. And Jordan Hicks was cut to make way for Zaven Collins. So I'm wondering if there's any animosity. Of course, they're going to share everything on the playbook on us. They're going to tell whoever the offensive coordinator is there. I'm not sure who it is. I think who's the head coach? The head coach was
O'Donnell.
Yeah.
O'Connell. See, Kevin. That's the guy they just signed from
the Rams. Kevin O'Connell.
That's right. Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, so he has a little bit of experience, obviously, facing the Cardinals. So it's not like they're going to need too much in depth. But one thing one of the breakdowns that I have on the Cardinals defense that I'm trying to work on is I'm trying to figure out what's going on with these sack numbers being so low, the pressure rates being high, which is an anomaly, and what happens in the red zone. So what I've seen Vance Joseph do so far is they give up all the yards, get to the red zone, then he drops his people into coverage, which is what I wish he would do between the 20s. But he does that, and I have to commend him for at least staying committed, because this front four has done a pretty good job. I mean, you saw Cam Thomas and Myjai Sanders get their first sacks against Seattle and stuff. Those guys are disruptive. So I'm going to be, well, once that film drops, I'm going to be watching it like a hawk to see how I mean, obviously we'll know how the game plays out, but just how they performed, knowing that like someone like Jordan Hicks and Patrick Peterson can, like, they give off everything when it comes to like defensive schemes and stuff. So that's what I'm very interested in seeing. So those are the two people, especially Jordan Hicks. I'm going to be keen on him more so. He played really well, you know, his first year here, and he played very well, and then he started slipping. So I want to see if he kind of picks it back up again, being in another team.
Yeah, for sure. And the guy that I'm really wanting to see, you mentioned as well, Cameron Thomas. I mean, Myjai Sanders, I'm excited about his potential. His first step, Myjai's first step is really good, but it seems like Cameron Thomas right now is ahead of him in terms of overall play. You know, and I love Cameron Thomas's potential as well. And I just, with, you know, they're both getting more snaps, but Thomas is grading out better, playing better, I think. And I just think by the time the season is over, Cameron Thomas is going to be the starting outside linebacker. If he isn't, you know, right now I think Dimikashi's is getting the start because Gardeck is kind of banged up, and Dimikashi played really well in the preseason. He's not playing as well as Thomas, in my opinion. He's not grading as well. But I think by the end of the season, if not sooner, Cameron Thomas is going to be one of the starting outside linebackers. And I think we're going to be all talking about how excited we are about him. Brian saying Sanders and Thomas better than Golden Gardeck. I mean, Golden struggled, but he's starting to pick up a little bit, but neither of them, you know, him and Gardeck haven't been they've got one sack each, right? So Sanders had a rough game this last game. He got beat on that one play that was a touchdown. I know that was in coverage, not pass rushing, but I think Sanders by next year is going to be potentially a starter for us. I think the skill is there and the tools are there. But Thomas, I think this year he's already grading well. He's putting it together. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. Everyone, if you aren't following Marcos, his Twitter handle is in the description. Make sure you follow him. He does a lot of great work with film. You know, he writes for AZ Sports Underground. We sent out his articles on Twitter. He also does some other stuff with film on Twitter. So make sure you're following him on Twitter. Go follow him now if you aren't already. Read his work on AZ Sports Underground. He does a great job. Real quick, Easy No Stories jumped in here. We're finally playing our rookies, man, right? Yeah, it's nice to see, right? Brian saying, thank you so much, guys. Like and subscribe to these wonderful folks. Thank you so much. But make sure you follow Marcos. Marcos, anything you want to shout out before we get out of here? Maybe article that you just published or anything you're working on or anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Well, hopefully if that article comes out soon, I think I've given more man hours to this, just this one thing alone, and trying to figure out what the proper explanation is for what's going on with the sack numbers. You guys will, that one's going to be a must read. That's going to be the one that I give more of my, it's a big project. So that's all. So it's going to be pretty extensive, but trust me, it'll be worth the read. Just like I said, you guys know where to find me on Twitter.
For sure. Yeah. I always retweet Marcos's stuff. So I look forward. I want to see what you come up with the film study, with what's going on with the pass rush. So definitely check that out. Real quick before we get out of here, Jason, thanks for being here. What's up, Joe? Nice to see you. Same here, Jason. I appreciate you being here. Calvin, great job, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Right. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Again, enjoy the Suns game. Marcos, thanks for being on here. We'll have you on here again. It was good talking stuff. Tony just got home. Thanks for being here. I think he's going to watch it later. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you, Tony. Appreciate you so much. So I'm going to put up, as I always do, the members shout outs. to all the folks who are channel members to support the channel. Everyone, like I said, make sure you go follow Marcos on Twitter, read his stuff on AC Sports Underground. He does a really good job with film. So we're going to get out of here. Enjoy the Suns. Hopefully the Suns win tonight. Peace, everyone.